All right, today we're going to talk about something I think a lot of us can relate to. This idea of the lone wolf, that radical self-reliance. But we're going to dig into the myth and the pretty heavy price that can come with it. So let's just jump right in with a big question, okay? Do you really have to do everything alone to be strong? I mean, we hear this all the time, right? But is it actually true? And look, let's be real. At first, yeah, it feels powerful. You know that voice in your head? The one that says, I don't need anyone. Or, nah, I'll just figure this out on my own. There's this, I don't know, this thrill to it, right? You feel totally independent, in control, unbothered. It's like, hey, no one can let you down if you never rely on them to begin with. But slowly, that feeling starts to change, doesn't it? What used to feel like a protective shield, well, it starts to feel more like a crushing weight. And that sense of control, it kind of morphs into just isolation. Okay, so let's actually put a name to this thing. Let's define what we're really talking about when we say the lone wolf mindset. You know, research actually has a formal name for this. Lone wolf tendencies, or LWT for short. And this isn't just some personality quirk. We're talking about people who are often super high-performing, motivated, self-confident, but they just can't stand working in teams. They actively resist it because it feels like it's holding them back. And if we take that a step deeper, when this whole thing gets really extreme, therapists have another name for it: hyper-independence. And here's the key thing to get. It's not a choice. It's actually a trauma response. It's a survival strategy, a really brilliant one actually, that your brain came up with when, in the past, depending on other people felt unsafe or just plain disappointing. So does any of this sound familiar to you? Like an intense reluctance to ask for help even when you're drowning? Or that deep, deep fear of being a burden to anyone? Maybe you're the one who always takes on way too much responsibility for everyone and everyone. It all leads to the same place, right? Just chronic exhaustion and feeling totally alone, even in a room full of people. Okay, so this brings us right to the heart of it, the core myth we really need to take apart. It's time to redefine what being strong actually looks like. The researcher, Brené Brown, you've probably heard of her. She completely flips this conversation on its head. She says, hey, vulnerability isn't weakness, not even close. She says it's the courage to show up even when you have no idea what's going to happen. It's the ultimate brave move. And this is a perfect way to see the difference between your ego and your actual strength. See, your ego is the part that screams, I don't need anyone. But that's just fear talking, right? It's scared of getting hurt. Real strength, on the other hand, quietly says, you know what, I can choose who to rely on. Or accepting support is actually really efficient. It's a huge shift from thinking vulnerability as a weakness to seeing it for what it is, a choice, a courageous one. You know, in her research, people actually described what vulnerability feels like. And it's like this. It's like you're on a tightrope, and moving forward is just as scary as turning back. It's that moment, right? That feeling of total exposure, of being all in. It's terrifying, for sure, but it's also what makes us feel really, truly alive. So let's just be crystal clear about this. The belief that we're supposed to go it alone, it's a total myth. It's just not true. We are literally wired for connection. As humans, we're not built to function in isolation. We need support, period. That's how we thrive. But that raises a question, right? If we're built for connection, why do so many of us walk around in this heavy armor, pushing people away? Well, to get that, we have to look at where this isolation actually comes from. And the answer, a lot of the time, is something called relational trauma. Think of it like a psychological injury, one that comes from early relationships, maybe with caregivers, where depending on them was just not safe, it was unpredictable, or just led to being let down again and again. So your brain learned a very powerful lesson. Relying on other people is dangerous. And I really need to say this again because it's so important. This is not a character flaw. It's not you being stubborn. It was a brilliant, necessary survival mechanism. But that's the tragedy of it, right? The very thing that once kept you safe can turn into a prison that cuts you off from the exact thing you need to heal, which is connection. A classic example of how this can happen is something called parentification. It's basically a role reversal in childhood where the kid has to take on adult responsibilities for the parent, either practical stuff or, their emotional needs. And what the child learns from this is just devastating. The lesson is, my needs don't matter. My only job is to take care of everyone else. All right, so we've looked at the problem, and we've looked at where it comes from. So What now? How do we move forward? Well, this is all about finding a totally new kind of power. It's about moving from isolation to interdependence. And this is so crucial. The goal is not to swing from being super independent to being totally dependent on people. That's not it at all. The goal is to find that healthy, powerful sweet spot right in the middle. Interdependence. It's that mature ability to not only give support, but also, and this is just as important, to be able to receive it. So how do you actually practice this stuff? Okay, first, start small. Just ask for help once. It can be a tiny little favor, anything. The point is just to build the muscle. Second, try sharing one thought, honestly, with someone you actually trust. Just a tiny vulnerability. Third, and this one is key, just watch your own resistance. When that ego part of you flares up and tries to shut it down, just notice it. No judgment, just notice it. And fourth, find your balance. Literally schedule both your alone time and your connection time. Don't let yourself get stuck in either extreme. Really, this all boils down to one fundamental shift in your mindset. You have to stop asking that all or nothing question, do I need anyone? And instead, start asking a much, much more powerful question. Am I choosing wisely who I rely on? See the difference? That puts you back in the driver's seat, but in a way that's healthier and frankly, a whole lot smarter. Because here's the bottom line, the ultimate takeaway. Real power, the kind that lasts, isn't found in being completely isolated. It's found in balance. It's having the strength to stand on your own 2 feet and also having the wisdom to know when it's okay to let someone help you. So I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. Are you just surviving alone? Or are you ready to start growing stronger together? Because the second you decide to drop that whole lone wolf thing, that's the moment the real growth can finally begin.